Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the Fight with Teddy Atlas. I'm Teddy Atlas III, and I'm joined by the new live streamer and fight guru, my father, Teddy Atlas. How you doing, bud?
Good, good. You give me the credit, but if it wasn't for you, you know, I'd be drawing pictures with crayons. I mean, and a chisel and a hammer and on the side of a cave. Yeah, we did a live stream thanks to you and Sam and Richie, our whole crew here. Look, we promised the fans that we're going to step it up to the 21st century. We're going to step it up and do more stuff, do more of the stuff that you guys want, because it's all about what you guys want. Live streaming fights, bringing more guests on, interacting with the guests. Even during live streaming, we did that. We had Antonio Tarver on doing the live stream of the fights, specifically of the Morell main event with Morell and Benavidez, and me and my son started it off by the Figueroa Fulton fight. We did that one first. But the bottom line is we're bringing you things that we think will add to the show and will grow the show to our audience. And we promised we would do that. It's only been a couple weeks and we're doing it. And it was successful. A little problem on my end, a little technical problem, Richie. I had a little delay where it took me an hour to get my end going when I thought I was going to be good. But again, I I am a caveman, and we got started an hour later than we promoted. So we probably lost a few people getting started late, but then it went really well. A lot of people came on, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger as the night went on. Well, more and more people, the word got around. Hey, Teddy is over there with his son live streaming. He's got Antonio Tarver on with him, the former cruiserweight and light heavyweight champion, who's also a great commentator. And the word got out, and next thing you know, a lot of people were watching the live stream. So we're going to do that on a regular basis. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Antonio enjoyed it. More importantly, the fans, from all their comments, they enjoyed it. And my son enjoyed it. And with amongst the other changes that we are planning on doing, we always said that it would be better if we could be up on Monday instead of Tuesday. So we're going to start that too. We're going to start next week where we're going to be up on Monday instead of Tuesday. We're going to record on a Sunday. You know, who says you got to rest on Sunday? Who said that? Who made that rule? Who made that rule? I'd like to know. Costamano had me in the gym training fighters on Sundays. Yeah, Rich. On Saturdays, Sundays, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the whole thing. So we're going to do the recording on Sundays. We'll be up on Mondays, a day earlier for you good fans out there. And before I turn it to my son to get this week rolling, I want to also let you know that during the week, there's going to be a terrific interview up with Sal Palantonio, the number one NFL correspondent, the number one NFL reporter in the whole country. And nobody knows the NFL. Not only nobody knows the NFL like him, but nobody is privy the way he is to what's going on with his connections and with, his friendships and the people that he can go to find out things that are going on in the NFL. I mean, he really is. He's like Stephen A. Smith is with the basketball. Uh, he gets all the stuff. So I'm not sure what day we're gonna put it up. If it's gonna be, do you know, Bud? If it's gonna be Wednesday or Thursday, we're gonna put it up.
Yeah, we're going to decide, but yeah, either Wednesday or Thursday evening will go up, and that'll be up before the big game on Super Bowl Sunday.
And he gives you a prediction. He gives you a lot of information. He gives you a lot of inside stuff that, don't forget, my son was a scout for 15 years in the NFL, so he chimes in pretty good too. But Sal gives you a lot of stuff to think about if you're going to make a wager or if you just want to watch the game, or and enjoy looking for certain things, kind of like I give you certain things to look for in boxing, he's going to give you those things to look for in football, and he's going to give you his prediction, his score. And a lot of people out there that only care about what a lot of people on Staten Island care about, and you know what that is, bud, your boxes, your
Box
numbers.
pools.
Yeah, that's all they care about. No, Teddy, don't tell me who's going to win. Don't tell me about Patrick Morrell. What's the numbers going to be? And Sal gives you his numbers. He tells you a score that he thinks is going to be. I tell you, I wish I could get those numbers. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but I wish I could get those numbers in my box. So that's coming to you this week with Sal. It's a 20, I think it's like a 22-minute interview. It's short and sweet, but it's strong. It's got all the information you're going to need to enjoy the Super Sunday, maybe a little bit more. Having said all that, I have a little bit of sad news that I have to give out, or I want to put out there, even though I hate putting sad news out. But I also believe in remembering my friends and commemorating people that have been important, not just in my life, but have been important in this sport, the sport we talk about here, boxing. Mike Katz, the great boxing journalist for many years. Back in the day when every newspaper in the country had a boxing writer, a beat writer. We don't have that no more. You have internet guys, you have this, you have that. You got, but you don't have a dedicated, real boxing writer in the newspapers the way you used to have when the sport was paid attention to in a bigger way. And Michael Katz was the best of the best. He wrote for the Times, he wrote for the Daily News, then later on he went the direction of the sport where it went to the internet stuff. But this guy was one of the last of the Mohegans. He died Tuesday, the 28th of January at 86 years old. He loved the sport. He was a guy that not everyone got along with. He had a tough edge to him. I always say the good thing about Michael Katz was he let you know how he stood and how he felt with you. The bad news was the same thing. He let you know very directly how he felt, how he stood with you. But he loved the sport, and he was dedicated to that love. And he believed that the sport, you should earn your way to be a boxing writer, that the sport deserved that, the fans deserved that, that not any Johnny come lately with a pencil in his ear should necessarily be given the right to just start writing about big fights and everything that entails, and definitely shouldn't be given the right to sit at ringside. And that's probably why, yeah, you might have heard the story. Michael Katz once or twice took a water bottle, it wasn't completely full, and he threw it and hit somebody in the back sitting at ringside that he didn't think deserved the right to get that ringside seat. And he got it because of privilege. He got it because he knew somebody. And so he just, in his own way, it was quite a way, let them know, you didn't belong here. And, when they got over the stiff neck, they had to think twice about whether or not they were going to accept that seat again at a big match where Michael Katz would be covering it. Again, a lot of people are going to say, that's nasty, that's terrible, that's this. The point I'm making is that he loved the sport so much, he didn't take it for granted. He felt that everybody should also show that kind of passion. And to do that, you had to put your time in. You didn't get the right just to get a press row seat because you happened to know somebody, as far as he was concerned. And you know what? I think most people would understand that. They might not understand the throwing of the water bottle. All right. But I think they would understand his position that way and his feeling that way. He was a great writer. He was a great writer. And I just wanted to give him I wanted to give him a little bit of his due and say he's going to be missed. He really is. He was spectacular the way that he could put things into print, uh, and just draw the picture that you needed drawn if you were not at that fight. So anyway, God bless my cats. We lost a good one, and without further ado, buddy, let's go.
Yeah. Well, thoughts and prayers with the Cats family. I remember reading a lot of his articles as a little boy in the New York Post and other columns. So God bless him. And yeah, let's talk about the fights this week that we had, right? We did a live stream, as you said. I had a blast listening to you calling the fights. There's a reason why you're in the Boxing Hall of Fame for commentary, and I think the best to do it. So it was a real treat. I think the fans would agree with that, reading the comments. And like you said, having the addition of Antonio Tarver, the former light heavyweight champion, on, it made it that much better. So with that being said, talking about those fights and recapping, we'll start off with Angel Fierro versus Isaac Pitbull Cruz. This was an unbelievable fight. Supposed to be was the comeback fight for Pitbull Cruz. And first fight coming back from losing Valenzuela. This was all out, absolute Mexican war. Just great nonstop action. These guys threw over 500 punches after the first 4 rounds. They just didn't stop. I thought Pitbull Cruz started faster, was able to get inside and get, as you said, that geography that he needed. And then Fierro made some changes and was able to have some success and land some big shots of his own from the outside. Truly just back and forth, great action. Like I said, nonstop, unreal display of heart and guts by both men. In the end, Cruz won a unanimous decision. Did you agree with those cards, and what did you think of this great fight overall?
Yeah, here's my card. I want Richie to make sure that the fans can see this. And look, when I give you my card, full transparency as always, I let you see my thoughts. I make little notes. I make little notes of why I thought the guy won the round or the way I thought the fight was starting to go. And I had it 96-94. So I agreed with one judge. I think it was Steve Weisfeld from Jersey.
Yeah, it was Steve Weisfeld,
Yeah,
96, 94.
Yeah, I agreed with him on the button. There was a 97-93. That's not that far off. I could live with it. I thought there was a lot of close rounds. There was round that could have been even. It was a close fight. It was a contested fight. It was a hell of a fight. It was a great fight. I do not agree with the 98-92. I don't know. We don't need judges that are that far off. We really don't. We got enough problems. You don't move your head, you get a headache. Because you get hit too much. You continue to get bad judging, you get a headache too. Dealing with that. And a lot of fans don't want headaches and they leave the sport. We don't need that. Anyway, it was a tremendous fight. Cruz is one of those fighters that he really lives up to his nickname. He fights like a pit bull. He gets it, he tucks up. He is a seek and destroy guy, but he's making you miss while he's doing. He's a Joe Frazier in a miniature form. Joe Frazier, smoking Joe Frazier, bobbing and weaving, making you miss in spots, and then coming in. Yeah, you can hit him. Yeah, he predominantly throws left hooks, although he landed a lot of good right hands too. But at the end of the day, like my son said, he's looking to get that geography on the inside. And one thing he's consistent at, he's going to try to get there. He ain't making no qualms about it. He's not hiding anything. He's not lying to anyone. He's making it very clear he's going to get inside. He wants to take your heart. He wants to take your will away. And he wants to take your body away. He wants to make sure whatever you ate for lunch that day, at dinner that day, you're not going to digest it. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're not going to have a good job of digesting it. And that's him. And he's consistently that. And to fight him, you got to fight him the way Fierro fought him. Especially when he got into gear. You got to look to counterpunch. You got to look to catch him before he comes in. And in spots, you got to fight fire with fire. On the inside, you got to see if you can throw short shots inside his widest shots. Fierro did a lot of that. Cruz was better. Cruz did a little bit more of what he makes a living with than Fierro did with what he makes a living with. Cruz did a little bit more with pumping that hook, landing him, standing straight up with the left hooks, doubling it up to the body and the head, going to landing straight right hands in spots. I'll tell you another thing that nobody talked about, and they don't. Cruz, everything he does is power shots. He walks into position, and everything he's launching at you is power-oriented. You don't need Teddy Atlas to tell you that. I'll tell you what you need Teddy Atlas to tell you, though. He's got a good jab. Nobody would tell you that. He doesn't use it enough, but in a couple spots that he used it, he's got a good jab. He's got a good, accurate jab. And before I finish with the analysis of the fight, I would love, I'm not thinking of weight class right now, but man, oh man, I would pay good money to see him and Nick Ball. I mean,
yeah, Ball's fights at featherweight champion, 126 pounds.
Yeah.
Pitbull's up to 140 pounds right now.
Yeah,
but I get what you're saying from the styles and
just the styles. Yeah. Just thinking about that fight gives me a good headache. A good headache. Because both guys would probably have headaches, God bless them, when the fight was over with. But man, the fans would be happy. But listen, Fierro fought a great fight. Both showed great heart, intestinal fortitude. Fierro, what he did his best again was the same thing that was done to Cruz in his last fight when he lost his title to remind me.
Valenzuela.
Yeah,
that was on the undercard of the Crawford fight.
Yeah, we were there in Los Angeles watching that fight. Another
in
Turkey
August.
Another Turkey Alice Sheikh special that's bringing us fights that we didn't get before, but we wanted and the sport needs. And it was just, he fought him the right way, Valenzuela. He boxed on the outside, he pot shotted in spots. He tied up on the inside when he had to. He snuck in some short shots on the inside when he could, in between the widest shots. But for the most part, he caught Cruz coming in. He controlled range, kept Cruz at a range where he could not be effective. Range of Cruz is in close. Cruz has to be in close to be effective. And Valenzuela understood that. He was consistent with his fight plan. He boxed him on the outside with the jab. Again, he made him pay a price to get in. He negated him on the inside when he could, where Cruz couldn't do his thing, which is to work the body and then go up to the head and wreak havoc on you. Fierro was, he's not as long as Valenzuela. He's built differently, but he had the same idea. Catch Cruz coming in, like I said, punching between some of those wide shots on the inside, and see where it gets you. And it got him to a really, really, really close fight where Cruz pulled it out in the last 2 rounds by winning those rounds, because I had it dead even going into the 9th. And Cruz showed that championship quality by pulling it out in the late rounds. And Fierro at the same time behaved like a champion when he had to. So at the end of the day, I'm not gonna stay on it any longer. I'm gonna try to listen to my son and be more concise. So that's what I came away with. Again, Cruz just, yeah, he's vulnerable. Yeah, you can hit him, but yeah, he's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, no question. They they both deserve a long break, but sign me up for that rematch. I mean, incredible fight. Definitely the front runner for Fight of the Year in 2025. And I agree with you. I thought Cruz eked it out with, it just felt like the bigger shots landing, the thudding shots, as well as, like you said, the body work. That was a big difference in the
100%.
fight.
100%. But and I'm glad you said that. I'll finish. I had one thing that I don't think that maybe that's why the one judge was so way off. Fierro, a guy like him in this kind of fight, to your point, gets the credit for scoring where he'll lose rounds where he really won them. I don't think he gets the credit because when you're fighting Cruz, he's making more noise. It's kind of like going to an orchestra. You know, you're gonna pay more attention to the drum section. They're gonna get your attention. You might not hear the violins. You might walk away. You have to be an aficionado. You have to be maybe a music real specialist to walk away and say, "Wow, did you hear that violin? Wow, that was beautiful. That was just incredible." What are you talking about? I heard the drums. Bam, 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 bam. I heard the. That's kind of like going to a Cruz fight when you are the responsibility of being a judge. You're hearing the drums, like you just pointed out, Bud. You're seeing the big shots. I agree with you. Bang, boom. Oh, the hair flies back, the water flies back. Yeah, and you're seeing that, but you're not seeing the string instruments. You're not hearing the string instruments. You're not seeing the quieter, more subtle things that Fierro is bringing to the game, bringing to the fight, where he's on the inside throwing little pop, 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 pop. They're not as loud, but they're efficient. They're effective. They're landing, and they're consistently being thrown. So I think sometimes when you're in there with the guy who's hitting the drums and you're the guy playing the violin, you know what? At the end of the day, I think that people are going to walk away appreciating and applauding the drum, not realizing what they should have appreciated with the violin because they didn't hear it. And I think that might be, I'm not giving an excuse to this freaking judge that had it 98, 92, but that's the most plausible excuse I can handle. But you got to be better than that because that's what you do for a living, and you actually have something. You impact the living of the fighter that you're judging. You do that for a living. It's good. You got to be better than that. You gotta hear. You gotta hear not just the big Cruz, shots, but you got to see and hear the ones from a guy like Fierro because they're there too. That's all.
That's a great point. It makes sense because those sounds that they resonate with you and you remember that. And the 98, 92 was too far off for sure in that fight for me. But I think you made some sense of why maybe he could come to that conclusion. So again, great fight, unbelievable fight. And let's move on now to the co-feature that evening, which was Stephen Fulton fighting against Brandon Figueroa. This was a rematch from 2021 where Fulton won a majority decision at 122 pounds. This time, they fight for the WBC belt as Figueroa as the champion at 126 pounds. Fulton comes in the ring with a custom jean shorts and Timberlands on, and he put on a clean, impressive performance. Just too sharp, too fast, too elusive for Figueroa. Figueroa, to me, got to always respect what he is, right? He's going to come forward and the pressure and the stamina, but was just too one-dimensional. He wasn't as effective. He seemed like he was smothering himself when he did get inside, always late to the punch, and Fulton had his way. Just, to me, Figueroa looked a little sluggish at the higher weight, but credit to Stephen Fulton. Bounces back after the loss to Inoue, two-time world champion now. What'd you think of his performance?
No, you nailed it. Listen, you nailed it. And look, I'll tell you what, I didn't nail it because I picked Figueroa. So again, full transparency. You guys don't got to come out after me with the arrows. I'm there. I'm there. You don't have to flush me out. You don't got to do that. Yeah, I'm there. When I'm right, I'm right. I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I picked Figueroa. I was wrong. I thought that Fulton might be impacted from the Inoue, even though he had one fight in between where he won it, which was very important to have. I thought he still might have been impacted by that loss where, he got taken apart by Inoue, but he wasn't. He fought brilliantly. And to the point of the Timberland boots, I don't know if they were boxing shoes that were designed to look like Timberland.
They were customized.
Yeah,
they were.
because they fooled me during the fight. I thought they were boots, and I was like, this is a first. I've never seen a guy fight with boots.
I did too.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen Joe Frazier was famous at running with army boots. He was famous. All the old time, Muhammad Ali ran with them too. The old time fighters, they didn't run with Air Jordans, okay? There was no Air Jordans. They ran with, they did things different. And they ran with army boots. They did. Black army boots to make their legs stronger and maybe to give them calluses and make them go through pain. I don't know. But that's what they were. I thought this guy's fighting with Timberland boots on. And the reason I thought was he wants to set himself, not just float around, but be set to punch. So it would be hard for Figueroa to gain entry. Look, whatever, whether they were boots or they, as it turned out, they were just boxing shoes that looked like Timberland, it sent the message. He came to do work. He came to be ready. He came not to be chased around the ring. He came to fight. Yeah, he was going to fight at a higher, more sophisticated level than Figueroa does because that's him. He's a counterpuncher. Figueroa is a pressure guy. Figueroa, again, is the guy that looks to evaporate your will and evaporate whatever you have physically to take care of. He's that sunshine that I talk about, that proverbial day in the middle of July, that proverbial puddle that's in the street and the sun is bearing down on it, and then you come back a half hour later, there's no puddle because it got evaporated by the sun. That's Figueroa. That's his approach, and it's always going to be his approach. He's going to try to evaporate you. And Fulton did what he does. He counterpunches. He tries to control the outside. He'll try to keep range. When he gets range, he beats you to the punch before you close the gap. And then he also, because back to the Timberland boots, he was ready to get on the construction site. He was ready to get in the pits, and he did. Because later in the fight, when he couldn't keep distance as much, and he had to fight fire with fire a little bit because of the relentless pressure of Figueroa, what did he do, bud? With the Timberland boots or whatever they were, he stayed inside and he punched in between those punches. He threw the shorter, more concise. He placed his shots. Figueroa was throwing shots. The big difference was Fulton was placing shots. Big difference throwing and placing. I'll take the guy placing them. He was placing shots, and again, to the significance, if there is significance of those boots, that in his mind, he wanted that mentality, his cornermen, his people, they wanted that mentality, I'm going to say, that, yeah, when you have to fight with this guy, when you have to get down and dirty, when you have to go on the construction site, so to speak, that's what you're going to do. And he got it in both worlds. He did a good job, Fulton, on the outside when he had range, pot-shotting, catch him on the way in, and then when he had to go inside and work with him. And look, there were rounds where that was Figueroa's best work on the inside. It was always going to be his best work on the inside. But for Fulton to be able to, in spots, hold his own, which he did on the inside, that's a big win because you know he's going to win on the outside. So if he can hold his own on the inside with an inside fighter, then you're going to win the fight. Then there's no way you can lose the fight then. And he did have the best of both worlds in that way. Look, Figueroa looked late in the fight like he was starting to maybe wear him down a little bit. But that was the greatness of Fulton and his preparation and his conditioning. mentally and physically, that when he started getting worn down a little bit, where his legs started getting a little wide, which I pointed out in the broadcast, he couldn't move as much. He was able to set up in his inside and still get work done, still not get run over, still not get evaporated. He was able to do that. And I tell you another thing that was brilliant. He's a cerebral guy. I always say the great ones got to mix in the cerebral and the technical and the physical. Every time Figueroa was switching back and forth from lefty to righty, every time, you know this, Bud, because we talked about it on the live stream, and we pointed out, every time he went southpaw, Figueroa, what did Fulton do?
Right hand.
The southpaw killer, pot shot him with right hand, right on cue. Right on cue. Talking about orchestra before, it was like the conductor. Okay, you go. And bang, the right hand was right there. So brilliant eyes, brilliant common or uncommon environment. I give credit to both guys. Figueroa tried early. I don't think anyone else is going to point this out. He tried early. He knew that he couldn't just be the bull in the china shop. He knew he couldn't just come in like he did the first time and win. So he tried to change. Yeah, a tiger tried to change his stripes a little bit. A dog tried to learn new tricks. He tried to be a little dirty. He switched a little more. He moved a little bit more. He was a little more conservative early. But that went out the window after about 4 rounds, maybe 3 rounds, because that wasn't getting it done. Because while he was doing that, Fulton was beating him to the mark. So at the end of the day, he had to do what he did. We are what we are. And he did what he does. And he did his best he could. But Fulton was better at what he does. He was the pressure guy brought the pressure, but the counterpunching guy did 2 things. He counterpunched, and he handled the pressure in spots on the inside and fought fire with fire and didn't get burnt. And that folks, that's it. What's that guy? Was that Daffy Duck? Who's that? That's all, folks. Because for me, that's it.
Definitely wasn't Daffy Duck. I think it was Elmer the Fudge. But that was a great breakdown.
I have a problem identifying anybody who's named Elmer the Fudge. We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. But I don't know. I mean, it probably was Elmer. But
a great performance by Fulton, becoming a 2-time world champion now at 126 pounds. So we'll see what's next for him in the future. Before we move on to the mega clash at light heavyweights between Benavidez and Morell, just want to take a quick pause and give a thank you to today's sponsor, Athletic Greens, the all-in-one daily drink to support better health and peak performance. These guys have spent 10 years with top nutritionists and doctors to create this formula. It's made from 75 whole food sourced ingredients. It has vitamins, minerals, prebiotics, probiotics, and antioxidants. This is like an insurance policy for your body's health and immunity. Simply visit athleticgreens.com/atlas to claim a special offer of 10 free travel packs with your first purchase. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/atlas.
I lost, by the way, real quick. I lost about, listen, when your father's a doctor, you don't go to doctors. My father was a doctor, so I don't go to doctors too much. When you've been in boxing 50 years, your whole life, you don't get on scales. You don't get on scales. So I don't really get on, but very rarely. But I had to lose some weight. I lost probably around 20. I put a couple pounds back on. And I got to get that back off. But while I was losing the 20, Athletic Greens was part of how I lost it. Because I know it's not a dietary thing. I get that. I understand that. But I used it that way. You can use it any way you want. I used it to supplement my meals when I didn't want to have a meal during the day, an extra meal. But I still wanted to get the nutriment I needed to get to last 6, 7, 8 hours. And so I would take the Athletic Greens. So it was helpful in that kind of way. And I'll leave you with one other little helpful piece of advice. Losing weight, and I know this is the Teddy Atlas way. He says it in his own way, but we all say things our own way. I can't. This is my analogy. Losing weight is like robbing a bank. The robbing of the bank, that's not the hardest thing. The hardest thing is not getting caught. Ha! Losing the weight, from my experience, and I'm not John Dillinger. I'm just saying, from my experience, losing the weight, it's not the hardest thing. It's keeping it off. That's the hardest thing. It's not getting caught after you rob the bank. Okay? Athletic Greens helps me not get caught after I rob the bank. I don't rob banks. I'm not good, but it helps me keep the weight off.
Well, talking about keeping off, let's get into the main event for Saturday from Las Vegas. David Benavidez and David Morell. Benavidez, a guy always hard to keep off with his nonstop pressure. Really good fight, impressive performance by Benavidez. But usually Benavidez takes a round or two to get going, but not on Saturday night. He didn't waste any time. He started fast, and he did not relent over 12 rounds. I thought Morell definitely had his moments throughout. Landed some big counters. He almost dropped Benavidez. I think that was at the end of round 4, where he buckled him with a hook. And then he got credited with a questionable knockdown in round 11. But overall, David Benavidez, just too much. Just relentless attack, punishing body work, and to the head. There was the point deducted in the 11th round, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But Benavidez really impressed me with his defense as well, not just his offensive ability and his chin. Just overall, extremely impressive performance. What did you think of the fight, and what did you make of David Benavidez?
Well, I think you just gave a pretty impressive performance right there. In some ways too impressive. You're stealing my thunder. You can't do that if you're going to be my partner. Can't do that. Can't do that. Even if you do have that beautiful, friendly smile, and that I love. Look, I think to get really there's a lot and not a lot to cover because it is what it is. I mean, it was what I think, like I said, when I'm wrong, I was wrong with Figueroa. I say it. I was right on this one. I picked, if you watch the fight plan, I gave my pick. I wouldn't give it to on our show because I wanted to inspire people to watch the fight plan. So on the fight plan, and I hope Sam puts it up, a clip. I asked you to talk to Sam, see if we can get a clip of that up where I picked it. I also want to get a little clip. I'm sure Sam will do this later on where we can show the controversial knockdown. I didn't think it was a knockdown in the 11th round, as you said, too. We can show that, and I can walk us through it. But before we get to that, I picked Benavidez very simply. I said, I'm going with him. I thought it was going to be a good fight, a tough fight to pick, but I didn't think Benavidez was going to get outworked. He wasn't going to lose a decision. If he lost, he was going to get knocked out or hurt badly and enough to take away the ability to win a decision. But when I made my pick, I said, Benavidez, if this fight goes the distance, for the most part, Benavidez is winning. Again, he's not getting out. He's too busy. His advantage is he's got faster hands. He's got more experience in the pros. That's going to count in the pros, even though the other guy had great amateur experience. And by the way, the other guy did a great job. Morell did a great job. He behaved like a champion, too. He fought like one, but he behaved like one, too. They both did. They both deserve credit for that. But Benavidez, faster hands, busier. His output of punch numbers is tremendous. And his dedication to the body, they both went to the body, but his dedication to the body is tremendous. And his relentless pressure is a big factor. Again, I did not think Morell had the ability with his style, his mindset. He's a little more conservative. He's a little bit more, if you want to say cerebral, I don't know. I'm taking nothing away from Benavidez, but if you want to put it that way, he's a little more thoughtful. He's a little more contained. He's looking to counterpunch. He's looking to be aggressive and be the boss in a much more controlled way. Benavidez does it at a higher ratio, at a higher speed, at a higher amount. You know, if Morell's going to throw 5 punches, Benavidez is throwing 12. He's going to outwork him. I thought maybe there's a chance where Morell, being a good puncher, being a more concise guy, could maybe catch him in between a shot, maybe catch him coming in and hurt him with a counterpunch, which he did, as you said, in the 4th round with that hook. I thought that anytime a southpaw is fighting an orthodox fighter, the right hook of the southpaw is the most dangerous weapon because you're not used to seeing it come from that peripheral, from that side. You're not used to seeing it. It's a sneaky punch, especially the counter. It's a dangerous punch. I didn't think Morell, for what it's worth, used it enough. It's that important a punch and dangerous as the southpaw. He used it that time in the 4th round you're talking about where he nailed him the right hook and he bungled his legs. It was at the end of the round, but it caught him. It bungled his legs a little bit. I'll say another thing. Louis the Cubans, the manager, one of the people involved that's done a great job with Benavidez. When they
With
had
Morell.
with Morell, I'm sorry, but when they had the contentious, and all weigh-ins nowadays, it seems like are contentious, whatever. Sometimes fake, sometimes real. This one was real. When they had the contentious weigh-in, and Benavidez and Morell, and after Benavidez was sitting down, and it was either the weigh-in or the press conference. It doesn't matter. And Louis the Cubans, who's a great boxing guy, great boxer, and great at bringing Cubans. He brought so many Cubans over from Cuba over the years that have become world champion. He's the king of doing that. So much so that the legend has it that Castro had a hit out on him, had a contract on him because Castro, of course, didn't want his boxers being taken away from Cuba. You know, he didn't care if they didn't get a chance to make money and fight pro. He was a boxing fan, and all he cared about was they were going to win Olympic gold medals for his country. So Louis started, doing what they do at press conference. He started yapping and yelling a little bit at Morell and saying that
At
he was going to...
Benavidez.
At Benavidez, I'm sorry. He started yelling at Benavidez. Thank you, bud. Thank God you're here. And he started yelling at Benavidez and saying, look, we're going to find out what kind of chin you have. And I'm telling you right now, if you can take my guy's punch, Morell's punch, you got a better chin than I think, and I know nothing about boxing, which of course he knows a lot about boxing. But he was making a point. He was so sure that Benavidez didn't have that kind of chin. Soon as he got hit that right hook, what did I say during the live streaming we did? I said, well, Lou, you might have found out what you didn't want to find out. Benavidez has a good chin. He has a good chin because he just survived that punch. I know it was late in the round, but he survived that punch. It was a clean right hook. So that having been said, I thought it went the way that I thought it would go when I made my prediction, that Benavidez would outwork. He would get the geography he needed on the inside a little more than the other guy would get the geography he needed on the outside to score possible counterpunches, to set possible traps, to get, and to your point, you know what I think was a big deal? Was that Benavidez was not recklessly aggressive. Sometimes when you're aggressive and that's your thing, and that's how you make your living, it can work against you. You can be overly aggressive. He wasn't over. He was aggressive, like you said, where the defense was intact with his offense. He did it in a responsible way. He did it in with what I talk about. He was effectively aggressive, not recklessly aggressive. I think Morell needed to win this fight. He needed Benavidez to be a little reckless with his aggression, and he wasn't. And I had one other thing that I appreciated, that I saw, and I hadn't really realized that Benavidez would be able to do this. And it was a thing where I thought that the guy placing the shots, being more educated with his punches, would be Morell. Again, full disclosure, I did think that he might get outworked, but he might be better at placing accurate shots. I was wrong. Benavidez showed me a capacity I didn't know he had, where he could be really, really busy, really, really aggressive, and at the same time place shots, be really good. Like usually the guy throwing less punches is good. He could also be good at placing. Wow. The way he went over and placed a right to the body, went to the left, placed the left to the body, placed the uppercut. He found a home for the uppercut, Benavidez said. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. He kept at it all night because Morell didn't come up with a way of avoiding it. So he stayed. They both got hit with uppercuts. But for the most part, Benavidez had a party with the uppercut. But again, his ability to get the best of both worlds, to not only be the busier guy, but be the guy who was throwing the more better placed, educated, accurate punches. I don't see a lot of guys do that. Usually when a guy's a real busy guy, he's spray painting. You know what I mean? He's spray painting the punches. And they're not always all accurate, but there's a lot of them. This guy, Benavidez, and I think that's why he won, was able to do both. He threw a lot, but at the same time, instead of spray painting, he was using a brush. He was being Michelangelo at the same time as being a graffiti artist. That ain't easy, to mix being a graffiti artist and Michelangelo or Picasso, whatever you want to say.
Going back to what you said with Louis DeCubas, I thought right away, as soon as I saw that clip before the fight you're talking about, you don't want to wake up the monster. And it felt like he might have woke him up a little bit with that. But to your point, I was going to ask you, you're talking about the placing of punches. I was just so impressed with the way he creates the openings to land and place those punches, as you're saying, right? He's pulling the opponent's hands down. He's chopping down on punches. Just showed his smarts with his nastiness, the
100%.
combination. And in that regard, it reminded me of Arthur Beterbiev. And now with the win, he is in line to take on the winner of Beterbiev and
Let me
Bivol.
jump in. You brought up a beautiful point, how he pulled his hand down. He used his left hand to pull down the left hand of Morell and then hit him with the right hand as he did it. I don't know if that's even allowed. I'm not saying he did anything dirty. He did it. It's up to the referee to say you can't do it. But I'm not sure that every referee would allow you to reach over, pull a guy's glove down. He did it a few times effectively, and then hit him after you brought the glove down, hit him with the right hand. Again, when Muhammad Ali used to stick his glove out to Joe Frazier and leave it out there, the referee would slap it down, you know, bud? The referee would say, you can't leave your hand out there. You can't do that. Come on, Muhammad. Come on, stop that, Muhammad. You know, trying to measure the guy and set him up like your uncle would do when you were a kid, and he would hold your forehead and you're trying to get to him and you can't get to him because he's holding your forehead and he's keeping you out of range. Ali would do that, and sometimes he'd get away. Sometimes the referee would slap his hand down. The referee did not stop And look, more power to him. It was a smart move. To your point, that was a smart. It shows you he's thinking, he's seeing. That's a smart move. Another thing that I tell you was a smart move was Morell was keeping his hands up really good. And they both block really well. Both these guys, they block well. Benavidez did a lot of block. He might not always slip the shots, but he'll block a lot of shots. And he did a hell of a job doing that. But there were spots where there was no opening. Really, the traditional openings is you want to get to the chin. You want to go down the middle. And Benavidez split the guard with the right hand a couple times, the straight right hand down the middle of the guard of Morell. But there was a lot of times when he had that peekaboo defense that there was nowhere to really get to the chin, which is where you try to get to. So what did he do? What did Benavidez do, bud? He aimed behind his ear. He drew the looping right hand behind his ear. And a lot of people might say, oh, he's not throwing it straight. You're supposed to throw it straight. You know, he's throwing it crooked. No, sometimes you're supposed to throw it crooked. There's more ways than one to skin a cat. There's more ways than one to hit a guy with a right hand. Sometimes it's got to be straight, traditional. Sometimes it's got to be a hook to get around the glove. And he did that. And to your point, and I'm so glad you brought it up because I would have forgot to mention it. To your point, he showed that ability to recognize and to do. And I don't think we think about that or thought about that with a guy who throws a lot of punches, who wins on aggression, and is called the Mexican Monster. I don't think we give him credit for that. But I'm giving him, and you're giving him, and appropriately so, credit for that cerebral part of what he showed Saturday night.
Yeah, no question. And to your point, I mean, you watch it, and like I said, with Better Beef too, you wonder, is that legal? Is the ref just allowing that to take place, of the pulling down, of the chopping down, of using the forearm to create extra space and create those openings for the place punches? But also just talking about how smart he was and the defense, you always talk about the 3 lines of defense. He used all 3 of them, right? He's slipping punches, he's moving his head, he's using his legs, and then he uses his hands so well. I was more impressed maybe with his defense because I already knew what he was offensively. But to me, maybe I underrated how good he was in the past defensively off of this performance.
Beautiful point. Without the defense, he doesn't win this fight. Without the defense, he don't win because this guy's a good puncher. He's an accurate puncher. Yeah, he only had 11 pro fights, but he's had a million amateur fights. The guy was a amateur prodigy, comes from the great, great national Cuban team that does nothing but pump out gold medals, Olympic gold medalists, and world champions. The guy, could he have used a little more experience at the end of the day? Yeah, it's easy to say that afterwards, but he didn't lose. Morell didn't lose because he wasn't ready. He lost because Benavidez was better than some people might have thought he was. And part of that was better defensively, to your point.
No, and that's a great point because I think a lot of people that are going to take away from the win of Benavidez, they're going to say, well, Morell only had 11 wins and try to discount his experience and what you just touched on.
Yeah, Leon Spinks had 9, 10, 11, and he beat Muhammad Ali. I know Ali was older, but still, he beat Ali. You know, look at Rigondeaux from Cuba. He had a few fights. He won a world title. Great fighter. Look at the great Lomachenko. 2 fights, right? He wins a world title. So please, if you're ready, you're ready. If you're ready, you're ready. And he was ready. He was ready. But at the end of the day, Benavidez was ready too.
I'm getting tired of hearing Tim Cheatham's name when these scorecards get announced.
But don't stop because I don't want to have a head. Don't stop, Bud. We're doing good. We're sailing along. We're having a good conversation. I love you. We're doing good. I think the fans are enjoying it. Please, because all I'm going to say is what I said to Antonio Tava. That the same when we were live streaming it. Antonio, Teddy, if you're going to be a professional judge, boxing judge, you should not be named Cheatham. Change your name. Change your name.
Yeah,
Because it just because it looks bad when you give continually bad results and decisions. When you give those kind of scorecards continually, it just brings more attention to that name.
Yeah, 118, 108, way too wide, but otherwise, obviously was a clear, to me, unanimous decision win for David Benavidez. Let's just talk about the 11th round. Did you think that was a clean knockdown, or more so the legs being tripped up? And then towards the end of that round, with the point deduction and the punch after the bell, what'd you make of that?
I thought the punch hit him behind the shoulder, to be honest, somewhere around the elbow, the shoulder, and pushed him. It was hard to see. But it was hard to see. Bang, bang. It was hard to see. I thought he tripped over his leg. Southpaws and orthodox fighters, they get their legs mixed up a lot of times. I thought he tripped over his leg. He got pushed over his leg. I thought it was that. Here's the interesting, here's the curious part. Curious part. And I know you're on this. Benavidez didn't complain.
Not
That's
one
what
word.
Yeah, I don't know if it's him being stout, him being a real fighter. Like some guys get hit in a low, and they take 20 minutes to get back. Oh my God! Oh my! Even though they have a cup on, supported the whole. The whole thing. And sometimes it's real. Don't get me wrong. But sometimes it's a little play acting. And then you get the guys. Then you get certain guys. Those real monstrous type guys. You get and they get hit and they go, okay, come on, all right, let's go. And maybe that's what Benavidez was doing. Hey, what am I gonna do? I'm a fighter. I was brought up as a fighter. I'm not gonna complain. Let's go. Let me get at you. Kind of like Evander Holyfield when he got his ear bit off. Most guys be looking for the emergency room. What was he looking for? What was he looking for? A path to Tyson. A path to get out of my way. Give me the mouthpiece. I'm going to get the son of a you-know-what. So maybe it was that attitude. Or maybe he felt something. Maybe something happened we didn't see. Maybe he did get affected. I don't know what it was. But I know another thing. The network did not do a good job of showing you a replay because you only saw the original and then they never showed it to you again. I think maybe the excuse is because then 30 seconds later in the round, at the end of the round, Morell lands a late punch that does hurt Benavidez. It did hurt him. It was a late punch. I mean, I know that's a bang-bang situation. I get it. But the bell rang. He put his arm in there. The referee put his arm in there, and he hits him with a big shot, and it hurts Benavidez, and then the referee takes a point away. So that nullified the knockdown. That might have been a bad knockdown, but that nullified that point advantage by then taking the point away from Morell for the late punch. But they showed that replay several times, but they never went back. That's where you have to have a good director, really, a guy on top of things, producer, director. You got to say, hey, fellas, we got to also go back and show what happened 40 seconds earlier where you had a knockdown that might not have been a knockdown. It's very controversial whether or not that was a knockdown. So but we're going to show it. We're going to show it because we do have good producers. We do have good directors. So we're going to show it, and I think you're going to see what I saw, which is more of a push.
Yeah, it felt like to me it was a push, but watching it live, not seeing Benavidez complain at all and just going with it, to your point, it confused me that, hey, maybe he did get caught with something there and dropped. But anyway, that was a good, thorough breakdown for the fight. Before moving on, I need to ask you, so now David Benavidez, with the win, puts himself in position for the winner of the rematch of Better Be Bivol on February 22nd. And for me personally, as much as I would be excited for that match, to see Benavidez versus whoever next and love watching him, I personally rather see him still fight Canelo Alvarez. I know Canelo's got a fight, sounds like maybe in September, versus Terrence Crawford. But what's your take of that? Would you prefer to see Benavidez versus Canelo or versus the winner of Better Beef and Bevo?
It's not what I want to see. It's what Canelo wants to see. I don't think he wants to see Benavidez. And I'm not knocking him. He's a great fighter, Canelo. He's the cash king. He's all that. I get it. Although the heavyweights have been doing pretty good with big guys lately, especially with Mr. Turkey Al-Sheikh involved. But and deservingly so. The fights that they've been doing and putting on, Usyk and Fury and Dubois, everything. But I will say that if anything, Benavidez didn't do himself any favors if he wants to be in the Canelo sweepstakes with that performance. Now, look, there's going to be the Canelo, maniacs out there, the pom-pom. Where's my pom-poms? I don't have the pom-pom. Pom-pom, okay, peppermint. Oh, yeah, Canelo. Oh. Look, I think Canelo's great. I have nothing against him. He does get the advantage of picking his spots more than other guys because he brings the money. I understand that. But he does get the chance to avoid guys if he wants to. He's fought everyone too. He's fought a lot of good fights. I get the resume. He's tremendous. Please, you guys, do what you want to do. Take it the way you want to take it. But don't say that I don't respect him or that he's not a good fighter. He is. He's a damn good fighter. But he does pick his spots too because he can. And yeah, he's fought a lot of good fights, beat a lot of good fights. Yes. But I don't think he's going to have as easy a day as people think he's going to because of the size difference with Crawford. But that's for another conversation. In the meantime, and that fight's going to tell a lot if he loses about how people really feel about Canelo or whether or not he has the right to say he's up here. That fight's got a lot. If he loses, gonna have a lot to say, or if he struggles, a lot to say about that. But that's again a different discussion. I think that performance of defense and offense and relentless pressure and body attack and not letting you breathe, that's gonna make a guy who's getting older like Canelo think twice when he's making a boatload of money with the Saudi money with Crawford. He can make a boatload of money. Not that it's any easier task to even think about the winner of Better BF and Beaver, because in some ways that's even maybe tougher than Benavidez. But he still has the road that he can go and make plenty of money without having to go down this bumpy road. Either way, win or lose, it's a bumpy road. So there will be the people out there, the cheerleaders and the Canelo fans, and some of them rightfully so, will say, but Teddy, he's a good counterpuncher. He's got a chance to do maybe what Morell didn't get done, to counter Benavidez coming in. Okay. And he's a good puncher. Okay. And he's also got a good uppercut. And Benavidez, even though he landed a lot of uppercuts against Morell, he got hit a few. On the inside, he can also catch Benavidez with an uppercut on the inside. Even though that's the territory Benavidez is going to want to own, Canelo can handle himself inside too with some short punches. Okay. And he could hurt him. Okay. Yeah. All of that's possible. At the end of the day, with all the options Canelo has, after that performance with Benavidez, if you're asking me if I'm buying or selling on whether or not Canelo would entertain that fight, I'm not buying. I'm selling. So that's my feeling when it comes to that topic. We got to see this Bevo Benavidez. Bevo better be a fight.
Too.
Yeah, because Turkey Al-Sheikh has already said he would like, and usually what he wants to do, he usually gets done because he has the ability with the money and the influence now to get it done. So he wants to see the winner of Bevo Benavidez 2 fight the winner of Benavidez or Morell. We know that's Benavidez now. That would be a hell of a fight either way. Either way, we got good stuff to look forward to. Would you agree, bud?
Yeah, I can't wait. It doesn't matter. Like you said, either way, I'm excited. I'm excited to see Benavidez in there next versus either guy. I'm excited for that February 22nd card, and I can't wait. So I think that was a thorough, good breakdown from the fights on Saturday night. Before we move on, I just want to remind people, if you haven't and you didn't join in and watch live for the live stream of the Fight Companion, you could go on the YouTube channel, and it's still up there under the streams, and you could listen in if you're rewatching the fight. You could put on Teddy and Antonio and listen to the commentary. So with that being said, let's move on to the last boxing talk for the week. We'll make this one quick. We kind of went from the big leagues there on Saturday night to felt like the minor leagues, if that, on Sunday night. We had Claressa Shields defending her title versus Danielle Perkins. But before that, on the co-feature, I know it's not a laughing matter when people could get hurt, but I couldn't help myself but laugh watching this WWE fiasco of the Moore versus Skylar Lacey fight. Both guys exhausted, just ridiculous. Winds up tackling Moore outside of the ring through the ropes, and I haven't seen a 20 count ever in boxing my whole life, 30 plus years now watching fights. We got a 20 count. What'd you make of this bizarre WWE type fight?
All right, this is what I make of it. It wasn't fun to watch. It's not good for boxing. It's not good for TV. It's for the fans, for the zone, for the promoter that night. It's not good for anybody. But I don't, as far as the 20 count, I don't know the rules. Maybe he was, I have to assume there's a rule somewhere, in some book that says you give a 20 count, that he was adhering to it. I'm gonna give him the benefit that he was doing that. Why else would he do it? Even though it's not a rule that we're familiar with or I'm familiar with. So I'll say that, number one. Number two, I put up a tweet, whatever it's called nowadays, X, tweet X, whatever it's called, I don't know. And I put up a post that you told me to put up with the video of what happened. And I simply put, look, everybody's like saying, what a carnival, what a joke. The problem with the carnival and the joke is it could be a very dangerous joke because somebody could have got seriously hurt. And it was very potentially dangerous. And what was the ref doing? Now, a lot of people, I saw a couple of responses, and people know I don't go on the internet, but people show it to me, I see them. So I saw a couple that you showed to me, somebody showed to me, and they said, Teddy, I don't see how the referee was doing anything wrong here. Like you're saying, what's the ref doing? You didn't get what I was really getting at. What I meant by what the ref was doing was more what the ref didn't do. Why didn't he disqualify this freaking guy before this? He had more than ample opportunity to disqualify him. He gave him every chance and then some. And he took points away and everything else. And it got to the point, even that round before that happened, he did it a few more times, where he took another point away. Disqualify the guy. What more do you want to see before we see what we saw and where somebody could get hurt? So that's the point I was making. I thought the referee did a poor job of not disqualifying this guy finally before it got to where it was devolving in front of our eyes. But it wasn't. It was heading towards this. You don't got to be the Mexican Kreskin to figure out that it was heading towards something like this. So why he didn't get disqualified before it got to that point, that's what I was talking about. I thought that should have been. Also, if you're the matchmaker, if you're the promoter, how are you putting that guy in the ring? Everybody comes with a rap sheet. Everybody comes with a record. Everyone comes with an MO, method of operation, right? if you've watched any tape of this guy, I guarantee you he's grabbed before. This ain't the first time he's ever grabbed somebody, right? Come on, he's a professional grabber. So how do you put that guy in a fight that's supposed to mean something and draw attention and get ratings and satisfy customers? How do you even put that fight? How do you put that? Moore was okay, but how do you put that guy in the fight? So that's something nobody touched on. At the end of the day, I just want to say one thing for my son, because when he said it felt like we were going from the big leagues to the minor leagues, one thing, he's right. The production, or the seeing that, all of that, he's 100% right. I don't want some people to jump on him and imply, because he wasn't implying this, but I'm getting ahead of it because I've been around longer than my son. I know how nasty you son of a guns can be. And I know already. I don't want anyone to jump out there and say, oh, he's implying Claressa Shields is in the big leagues. No, he's not. She's the GOAT. She's the best woman fighter right now on the planet. I mean, she's got competition. I mean, Katie Taylor's great, but she's getting older. Katie Taylor's unbelievable. Serrano, unbelievable. So you got some other greats there, and they've been around a long time, and they're tremendous. But Claressa Shields is the best. I mean, her and Katie Taylor, you can make an argument, but like I said, Katie's getting a little older, but she's great. She's great. But Claressa Shields is great. Nobody implying that she's not big leagues. She's big league. But that show was not big league. That's what we're saying. Right, bud?
Yeah, exactly right. Thank you for prefacing that and keeping some of these extra comments off of me. But yeah, you just said it exactly what I was thinking. And it was a rough night for Steve Willis, the referee. Just overall, I mean, the Royal Rumble was on Saturday night. I felt like I was watching that again. I mean, I couldn't help, like I said earlier, but laugh. I mean, the guy's running to get back in the ring. He's rolling under the ropes. He thinks he's beating the 20 count. I mean, the whole production of that was it was unreal. And I'm sure it brought a lot of laughs out there and went viral along with that clip. But that's it for that fight with Moore and Lacey. But let's touch on the main event, and let's touch on the #1 pound-for-pound female fighter in the world champion, Claressa Shields. She wins a decision versus Danielle Perkins. She capped it off her strong performance with a knockdown right before the final bell. What'd you think of her opponent, and what'd you think of her overall?
Her opponent's 42 years old, so let's start there, 41, whatever. All right, I thought her opponent, look, I like her opponent. She's a southpaw, she's big, she stepped up in weight, she's a heavyweight, she had reach advantage over Claressa, she had a size advantage over Claressa, all of that. But we know, if we really know this sport, it's not always about size, it's about skill. I mean, how many times in catchweight fights have we seen smaller people beat bigger people? And the size difference wasn't that much anyway here, but there was a little bit of a size difference. But I mean, look at Usyk. I mean, he beat a guy 60 pounds bigger than him, 40 pounds, 50, whatever it was. I mean, we've seen it through the history. It's about how you fight. It's about how together you are mentally and what kind of fighter you are. And that's what it's about. And Shields is a higher level than anybody right now in that, in any division. She keeps going up in divisions, and she keeps doing one thing, keeps winning and showing that she's the best one in any division that is within her reach that she goes to. That she is a full package. She's technically, I caught her first fights in the Olympics when she was 16, and she made me look good. I went on the air. They said, how are we going to do? Talking about the men's, because that was the first time women's boxing was in the Olympics. It was in London. And so we went on the air. They wanted to know, Teddy, how's our team going to do? Meaning the men's. I said, I don't think they're going to do too good. I don't think we're going to medal. What? We're not going to medal. But the good news is, I think the women will get a gold medal. They were like, what? I said, yeah, I think this Claressa Shields, 16-year-old girl, she's going to win a gold medal. She made me look smart for once. Every once in a while, even like the great late Mickey Duff used to say, he was great. But he used to say, hey, even a blind squirrel finds an acorn once in a while, right? So She made me look good. She won the gold medal. Then the next Olympics, she won it again. She is physically talented. She's mentally tough. She went into MMA.
That's
Who
right.
does that? I mean, she's mentally tough. She's had a tough upbringing. I give her nothing but credit for overcoming what she's overcome in her life. She is a great story, with what she's done and what she's done with her life and how she's overcome difficult things in her life. And she's technically marvelous. She is technically so good. She can go get you. She can counterpunch. She could go to the body and the head. There's no waste in her punches. She doesn't leave herself open. Like I said, she mixes defense with offense. She can fight inside, outside. She is tremendously solid, and she's got a great trainer, John David Jackson, the former junior middleweight champion, who was also a very good defensive fighter, a very smart fighter. So he's done nothing but help her by being associated with her, by being part of her team. She's the full package. I got one problem with Claressa Shields. You want to know what it is?
What's that?
My problem with her is competition. There's no competition for her. It's not her fault. But I'm being very honest. I'm saying things I don't think other people are going to bring up. But my problem with saying, okay, Sunday night, I got to mark down on my calendar, I'm watching Claressa. My problem with marking down on my calendar on a Sunday when I got some other things I could do and making sure Saturday night, whatever, this one happened to be Sunday, whatever night it is, to mark down that I have to be there to watch her, I have a problem. Because I don't think I'm going to be. I love watching her, but I don't want to watch the shadow boxing. I don't want to sit down and spend an hour of my time watching somebody shadow box. I want to see them in a competitive fight. Am I wrong for saying that? Do I get slings and arrows thrown at me for saying that, for being honest? I think there's a lot of people that might say that. That's the only problem I have with her. There's no competition out there for her to really invite me to say, I got to watch Claressa Shields. Now, look, she's moved up and she's beaten some good women. That there was some good fights, some good competitive fights. But at this point, it's pretty barren. At this point, it's crickets. I don't hear nobody out there saying, "Oh yeah, I got somebody who could give a real competitive fight to Claressa." And until that happens, until I think that she can be, again, she's been in some, but that she can be in a competitive fight, I'm not marking it down on my calendar that I have to. As much as I love what she does in the ring.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. It takes two to tango, and she just hasn't had that dance partner, like you said. This last opponent, Danielle Perkins, 42 years old, only 5-0. She's had that problem in the past, other than Savannah Marshall and a few other names where there was a little more name recognition there for her to square off with and dance with. So I
And
do
I
think
give
that holds her
credit.
back.
I give credit to Perkins. Perkins showed a lot of heart. She's a southpaw. She knew how to fight. She didn't move her hands enough. I don't think she took advantage of her height enough where she let the right hook go, which I always say is the best weapon a southpaw has, to try to catch Claressa coming in, and to, use her height by using the jab and, again, looking for the right hook. I don't think she moved her hands enough, but it's hard to move your hands with someone who you miss and they hit your back, when you do it. And that's what Claressa does. And one other thing to finish, Claressa did a marvelous job of figuring out what she had to do with this taller opponent. She had to get the taller opponent to give up her height. So she did. She got her to give up her height, and then she counterpunched her. Instead of going into the lion's den where she might have reached and got caught with the taller fighter. She did a great job of getting her to give up the height and make her job a little safer, a little bit. And then when she did come in, She inched her way to the right, took small steps, got herself to the right position, and then she quickly closed the gap without leaving any exposure. That's a good fighter.
Yeah, great performance by Claressa Shields. She moves to 16-0 now. We'll see what's next for her. Scary good fighter. It's scary to think that the one thing she lacks is probably power, right? She only has 3 knockouts. What would that look like if she had a little bit more power? But regardless, she doesn't need it. She has all the skill, and congratulations to her. So with that being said, that's it for our boxing talk. That was a lot of fights, thorough breakdowns for Saturday night and Sunday night as well. Before we go, I do want to throw at you, for the MMA fans, a quick little recap from the UFC world. We had Israel Adesanya against Nassourdine Imavov, and this fight took place Saturday afternoon in Saudi Arabia in Riyadh. I was thinking before this bout began what you've said in the past before with Adesanya of comparing him to Roy Jones, right? Beaten to his own drum, a lot of similarities of breaking all the rules and getting away with it because of his speed, because of his athleticism, because of his reflexes. And what does that look like when it slows down? And at 35 years old, the reflexes were slowing down and have slowed down, and the technique wasn't quite there. Impressive right hand by Imavov. Gets his second round knockout. What'd you think of the fight?
Exactly what you just said. You know, Roy Jones, Muhammad Ali, there's not too many. They made a living out of making wrong right. And then, of course, Ali made a transition, a metamorphosis, where he became a different guy after the 3.5 year enforced layoff. When he lost those years and he came back, he didn't have to refight. He wasn't the same, and he had to depend on his will, his constitution, and he covered up and he walked guys down. He did the rope-a-dope, all that stuff, but he depended on his chin and his will, which of course he paid a price for later on. But he still had an unbelievable career after some of those skills had gone away after the 3.5 years. But for the most part, and Roy Jones, same thing. I love Roy Jones. Great athletic fighter, tremendous champion, just great. But when his ability to make wrong right went out the window, when those reflexes, that sense of timing, that quickness, when it started to vanish because of age, he started to get caught. My man Antonio Tarver caught him. And Tarver was a hell of a fighter, but he caught him. You saw some of that, where when you make a living of those God-given abilities, those genetic abilities of speed, timing, quickness, all that stuff, reflexes, you better have a backup plan. And the backup plan has to be technique. And when you don't have that backup plan and you're fighting when those things aren't there anymore, you have a problem. And I think you've seen some of that with the great Adesanya. And he's been a pioneer. He's been great. He's been like a Bruce Lee, in his just marching to a beat of his own drummer, like an Anderson Silva was. I loved Anderson Silva. I mean, along those lines, he was an unbelievable talent, unbelievable middleweight champ, unbelievable striker. But now he's at this point. Now, again, full disclosure, before you come out there with the bayonets, I picked Adesanya to win. I was saying the class of him, for one night, the class of him could show through. But I don't make excuses. I picked the wrong guy. But I broke one of my cardinal rules. It's going to sound like an excuse. I don't care. Because the people that know me know that I'm not BSing, that I don't do that. And the ones that don't, I don't care. I broke one of my cardinal rules that I tell the fighters they can't break. I got emotional. I am friendly with Adesanya. He's been on our show. We've been with him. I've done shows with him. I like him. I'm not saying I don't like Imavov. I just don't know. But I had a relationship with Adesanya that I think it affected me. I let my heart and you tell me all the time, Bud, when you're picking a fight and you just pick it on what you know, you're usually right. But don't get involved in this feeling stuff. Get out of it. Come on, Bud. You're the one who says it. And I did. I got involved with my feelings, and I wanted Adesanya to win. And nothing against Imavov. He's tremendous. But for the reason I just said, and I went against my own judgment of what I just talked about, what I should have known, what I should have understood. Now, I'll finish with this. It was a 2-round fight, so there's not a lot to break down. I'll finish with this. He got caught in the first round with an uppercut because he was standing straight up, waiting too much in front. So he got caught in an uppercut. That was a harbinger of things to come, that he's standing straight up too much in front and he could be susceptible, he being Adesanya. In the second round, it ended fast. But I always say that it ain't about the power. Now, people are going to get on me. Teddy, Imavov is a good puncher. I know he's a good puncher. But it's not about the power alone. But how many times have you heard me say this? It ain't about just the power. It's about the delivery system. And it's about the delivery. And one other thing. It's about the flaws, the defensive flaws of your opponent that allows you to land the punch. Nobody talks about that. That's part of it. And that was on display. Exhibition 101. That was on display. The words, what I say, what I talk about, it was on perfect display. Imavov caught him, Adesanya, with a right hand that did the job because Adesanya threw a slow jab and he posed. You don't pose after you punch, you move your head. If you pose, you don't get a picture taken. You get hit on the chin. Nobody's taking your picture, but somebody's going to hit you on the chin. So he threw the jab too slow. He posed, and the right hand came right over that jab the way it should have. A good right hand by Imavov. And it landed clean, and it did the job. Because of all of those reasons. That's it. Like they say, I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, right before that, I thought Adesanya was dry. He looked dry to me.
Good
And
point.
he didn't really get a lot of time to get that sweat going because the fight ended pretty soon in the second round. But right before that big right hand that you're talking about, and you're right, it was a slow pushing jab that Imavov was able to time the right hand over the top.
Can we show that? Can we show that, Sam? Because the way okay,
we're gonna get that up and we'll show that. But right before the right hand landed, there was an eye poke, and Adesanya brushes off the referee, doesn't take the time to recover. I'm not making any excuses for him, but right after that, they resume, and he switches stances, and boom, he gets hit with the right hand. I just wonder, was he still a little vision blurred from the poke of the eye and just maybe poor timing to switch stances right in front of him while then throwing a slow, lazy jab that credits Imavov times with a beautiful right hand. But anyway, that was just something that
you're being like your dad. You're being like your dad. You're making excuses for your dad's friend. You're making excuses for your dad's friend. I see it coming now. No, actually, listen, nobody's making excuses. Imavov did his job. He was tremendous. And he is a tough guy to deal with. And he's going to continue to show that. He's got a bright future. But what I'm saying is it's not about excuse. That was a good point. That's a point just worth because there's always molecules in the air. There's always factors that a lot of people don't pick up on, that are factors that really do have a part of somebody's demise. There's certain things that take place. Oh, you look back and you see the demise of somebody, and you look back and you say, gee, I didn't think about it, but remember that happened just an hour before? You remember that happened like 20 minutes before? You remember that happened? Like certain things kind of just come together like a perfect storm that kind of conspire against you to create that situation. It happens. So I'll tell you one thing. One thing the fans can't complain about. We are living up to what I promised years ago, that we will bring you the X-ray, the CAT scan of the fights, of all the things, the big points, the obvious points, and the less obvious points.
That's right. Well, Imavov moves to 16-4. He'll move up inside the top 5 in the rankings. And Adesanya drops 3 straight fights in a row. And we'll see what's next for the great Israel Adesanya. So that was a good breakdown for the UFC action this past week. Before we wrap it up, in closing, just want a quick couple words from you. Next week, UFC 312 rematch, Dricus du Plessis versus Strickland. What do you expect to see in that one?
I expect to see physical strength of du Plessis, confidence, determination of the champion. Again, physically strong, but more than he is the proverbial, you can't judge the book by its cover. He's not just a strong guy. He's more than that. He's technically, good in all areas. He's solid. And then with Strickland, as the jab goes, he goes. He is a terrific striker. He's well-rounded. He's terrific. He's terrific for the sport. He's terrific for the brand of UFC. They both are. All these fighters are. They're tremendous ambassadors for their sport. I mean, he knows how to promote. I know he says some things in the past that weren't so nice and all that, but you do have to shine that light up in the sky if you're going to get people to come to your restaurant, right? You do, because otherwise they ain't going to know your restaurant's there. So, yeah, he's a promoter. He's been a good promoter. He's smart that way, but he's got a good jab. I mean, when he jabs and he uses that ring, sometimes if I walked in a room, and I didn't know who they were, and I didn't know it was a UFC fight, I might say, hey, that guy's got a pretty good, who's that fighter? Oh, who's that fighter? He's setting the table, and he's going to eat with the right hand. He's setting the table with the left, and he's going to look to eat with the right hand. He does it really well. He does it by the numbers. You talk about boxing, the jab is the most important punch. Well, just look at him, because he brings that home. Strickland brings that home. The jab sets everything up. It controls range. It's defense. It helps him with his defense. It keeps guys at a certain range where they can't penetrate so easily. If they try to penetrate, then he can eat with the right hand. The jab, he puts on a clinic with the striking with that. And then you mix in the other things that he does. There's a reason why he was a former champion. There's a reason why he beat the great Adesanya. And there's a reason why some people thought he didn't lose that first fight. I love Strickland, but I also love du Plessis. I thought du Plessis won, but it was a close fight. It was a close, tough fight. And this one, I would expect to be just as tough, and it's a very, very interesting match.
Yeah, it is. I look forward to watching it. We'll see if Dricus, he won the first fight by split decision. As you said, a really close fight. We'll see if he'll be able to do it again. Fights Saturday in Australia. So next week, we'll be recapping that, as well as some boxing news. Wallen will be fighting Derek Chisora. We'll recap that as well. So this was a good, thorough breakdown of all the fights this past week and upcoming. Before we sign off, any closing words, bud?
Yeah, don't forget, next week we're going to be on Monday instead of Tuesday, so make sure you pass the word around, okay?
That's right. We'll be starting off on Monday next week instead of Tuesday. And as always, thank you guys for joining us. Please leave a comment, subscribe. We'll see you guys next week.